Hello. So I'm here today with another guest. We've got Yoann here. Yoann is someone that I met very briefly before leaving London. We were crossing over. Yoann had just come back from Canada. I was moving out of London. But here to chat with Yoann about PPC specifically. And I'll start with this. If you want to stay updated with PPC news and everything, then Yoann is definitely worth following. He's launched it started out as a weekly newsletter on LinkedIn, but has morphed into a community with hundreds of people in it, all kind of lending advice, updates on Google, everything like that. So definitely follow Yoann on LinkedIn, or you can find PPC news. I wonder, can you Google it, Yoann, or can you find the site there?
You can find the basically link of the community into the newsletter. So if you go to my profile, you can jump on and see like the PPC newsletter. You can subscribe for free, or you can join the community. Now, like the community is going to a revamped where we'll basically stop any free members, because the idea is to go into deep dive into the news. So I'm jumping into one-on-one with every paid members, figuring out what they want, figuring out what kind of content we should create. And that's the purpose of the community, is just avoiding to feel overloaded and to have people able to support you into things like, okay, Meta has launched this new feature into engage audiences. Is it worth testing with clients? Now there is a WhatsApp message connection with Google Ads. Or do I do it? So I'm trying to figure out a way that we can feel updated and we can ask people to create content together. But the PPC News community at Earth was based on a non-profit. So I want basically the contributors to feel that they can basically create content and getting rewarded for it. And it's not for like a personal branding exercise. Neither it is to basically creating like a paid community only for myself. So I want basically the profit to get back to the contributors. That's the mindset behind it.
I mean, we were actually chatting before hitting record about this, but I guess that also manifests where you're working today. You were saying with a lot of people who are learning paid media and just trying to get PPC across to them specifically within the co-working space that you're in right now. I guess that kind of aligns. Like, is that your mission? I guess mission sounds a bad word, but yeah, I guess the two missions kind of fit together quite a lot.
Yeah, so I will not say it's fully a mission. I will say the first things of PPC News, I started it like 2 years ago, like directly, and after others followed me, creating their own newsletter. But 2 years ago, I did it because I didn't want to feel outdated in my own field. So it came from a feeling of scare at the beginning. Then it started from a Slack channel. Then it grew from a newsletter, a website, now a community. Now, how it's going to evolve in the future, I'm not really sure. But the main purpose here is that if I have a new PPC talent, a new junior, he needs to feel supported. If he has to do like 8 hours in meetings with clients or within their own organization, they should have like a safe place to go and not to basically spend too much time to be updated. So it can be a student, like in the co-working space where I am, is Creative Works, mix of a digital marketing school and a co-working space. But it can be as well a new PPC talent just starting wanting to learn Google Ads, or like a small business owners, or even someone who is higher into like a large enterprise. Everyone should understand they have like a different level in digital maturity. And the most important is basically to jump one step up. If you're able to do this one step, it's okay. Everyone starts from somewhere. So we just need to learn and to be a bit excited about the developments, not scared of them.
It's because actually that kind of goes into we're both part of the PPC Club 83 as well, which is kind of the same. That kind of community and the PPC news community, kind of like I don't know. I've always found that those sorts of communities really helpful, where a lot of the fear is kind of being a fear of being left behind in a lot of senses, and having those sorts of places where you can go to people and stay in touch and with the news on your own, but then B, like not being afraid to kind of ask for help, or kind of ask people if they've seen a similar thing. Because a lot of the situations that we encounter are kind of I'm sure you'll find in your day to day, you kind of often encounter situations that are completely new. They're not taught in the books, for example, as like a consultant, and they're something that maybe one person in 100 has ever encountered before. And those sorts of communities are so helpful for just voicing those situations, and someone might not have been through that situation, but something that can kind of apply to it as well.
Yeah, so if I have to pick over, the first things is separation between PPC Club 83, which is an invite-only community in the States. So if you want to join, feel free to PM me, and I will reach out as well to the founder, Morgan Friedman. But we try to limit the numbers of members directly. But there I can share basically something like, hey, I have an account where Google multiply by 10 the value of the purchase. What's happening? And 3 other people tell me, I have the same. I'm like, okay, so it's not a me problem. And then after we can figure out a specific solution on that. Well, the PPC News community is a different purpose. It's like, okay, I need help for people to create content, to feel updated. Can you please explain me consent mode V2? Can you please explain me other topics? There was the EMEA from Google. Can you please provide me a summary of it? I didn't have the time to spend 1 hour over it. So it's mostly to save time. One is mostly support, close support. The other one is like saving time and allowing you to grow. Now, there are other communities out there. I'm part as well of Miles' community, like PPC Hub. There is EdLeak, which is great for agency to grow. There are like other communities which are free. I'm thinking about Thiago as like a digital marketing community, mostly based in Netherlands, but it's really a strong one. There's PPC Live UK. So there is a place to find your spot here. But each one is into a different pacing, basically. You can get dedicated support with a close community. The one who are completely open, you feel less open to share your own challenges. So you're less basically open over it. Depends on everyone, honestly. You need to find the best one for you.
No, absolutely. And I guess in the spirit of PPC News, we'll kind of dive more into what that's all about, because I mean all that is it's summarizing, as you say, what's going on in PPC for people to save time, and this probably makes you the most qualified person in the world to kind of chat about where do you think Google is going with the most recent, I guess, given that you've been consolidating all of the changes and things that Google has been making to the ads platform, to everything else around it. What do you think that's kind of told you about where Google is heading with search, with all of their other kind of suite of products?
My honest opinion is, because I do Meta and Google together, I always have the impression that Google admires a product manager for Meta and the trust people have into the Meta algorithms. And because Google is limited in search volume, it always tries to expand across and to improve their machine learning. I've seen over the years Google doing two things: restricting data, but opening up open source directly. So they've shared like FeedGen, for example, for optimizing titles, and give like an edge case where they're like, okay, we figure out the solution. While all these scripts before were only dedicated to agency or enterprise level and only kept by the product team. In other ways, they try to basically use machine learning to help all advertisers, especially the small one, being like, okay, you cannot create image. Here's the new features, auto-generate image. You don't touch your assets for the last 90 days. Here's the auto creative that we have released there. Now, all of that is great, but sometimes they have lost track over like all marketers needs control. And the last PPC survey was kind of clear over that. People aren't satisfied on all the features that they like control. So I feel basically Google is going to a direction where things are going to be more automated, but more complex. And when automation is going to fail, then you still need like a PPC manager to try to fix things. But fixing things when automation fail is more difficult than it was before. So if ever your performance max campaign drop in performance, then you need to activate some old cases, which the old generation knew about. And it's more difficult for the new generation to trust more into the machine learning to actually have this reflex or to know the background that we had to go through. So excluding location, for example, Google will never exclude a location. But when we look at the location we have, we can restrict the inventory. Moving back to the best performers, or like the winning horses, like I call them, can be a way to direct Google towards investing better your investment. But at the same time, you go towards less search volume, and sometimes you go in conflict with some of the capabilities from Broad Match or Performance Max or anything else. So you need to find this balance between, am I pushing the right inventory, and am I giving Google the right level of data to actually grow, and not to limit the capabilities, because more and more when you limit capabilities from Google, you get the hit back, low search volume, then after like low qualities directly, your ad relevance is not the same. So you need to give the chance to Google to go. So the direction is going to be more cross channels, but more automation. But then after, you need to trust Google that they are helping you as well in some way to get the edge back. And I see it more like into the open source that they share. This has been the biggest development I've seen over this year at least. It's like being able to see everything that Google is sharing publicly.
That's all really interesting. And it kind of goes into it as a channel, because it's kind of at the core of it is still that demand based kind of, I call it like pull advertising. People have to have searched for something or shown intent for Google to really pick it up. Whereas others are, much more kind of push advertising. They can get a message to you even if you're not, necessarily in that kind of mindset. And Google, there are elements of it that are that push element. YouTube being top of the pile there. But yeah, it kind of goes into it's very difficult to kind of see people coming from not impossible. I've seen a lot of good social media managers become really, really good paid search, because there are those elements of Google that come very naturally to them. But then often when it kind of, as you say, when it goes down to the building blocks of what makes those campaigns work in the right way and what makes them tick before you layer over the automation, that's something that there's some very weird Google specificities that I don't know if you don't approach it from the kind of keyword level up, that kind of foundation, a lot of it is still built from that foundation, really.
Yeah, so if you talk about account structure, I've always promoted the single intent ad group structure, which is basically, okay, you have like an ad, it needs to meet a specific type of users. They have this intent. They search for climbing shoes for women. It doesn't matter if Google trigger ladies climbing shoes or anything like that, if your exact match goes broad. But what matters is that your ad still resonate to the audience. So you will always split ad groups when you need to create a new creative or you have like a different intent, which you will need to report on. And that's the basics of advertising. It's like you show an ad which is relevant to users and you direct them to the right landing page. So it has always been the principle of Google. When like quality score was the one, at relevancy, they try to go a bit to this direction, even if it's like a young measurement still, but they are still trying to go to this direction. Other things, I will not be an excellent paid social manager. Like I am more like into business sizes, accountability and performance. While in the other way, like when you do like paid search, you will need to think about inventory a bit like if you were managing stocks, and you're not going to diversify all your stock directly if you have to invest. You're going to focus on some. And what I've seen over the years is that everyone was complaining a bit about the benchmark where CPC is rising over and over the year. But I think people need to remember that every year, every advertiser has their own program, and every year they learn about what's working in Google Ads. So every year they are willing to pay more for it. So it's fair that the CPC is rising. It's not only inflation from Google, it's as well from other advertisers. I can dominate the horse industry, horse insurance industry. I can dominate it because I know it's worth it. I'm willing to pay the CPA higher for it. I know the value of my customer. So everyone else trying to bid on the same keywords is at a disadvantage because I'm willing to take more of a risk.
And you, as you say, you find that in every industry where, I don't know, I find Google more than anything else is an 80-20 channel where your absolute core is going to provide most of your revenue. And exactly that, if you know your keywords and those keywords have high intent for you, then they're always going to be your absolute bank. And from there, it's kind of expanding out. But yeah, it's kind of why it's very difficult to artificially create demand on keywords that there just isn't. There isn't the intent for you.
No, and that's the part where we need paid social marketer to create the demand. So very often, like paid search marketers are excellent to capture the demand which is already existing, not to create it.
Absolutely. And this, sorry, I'm wary of time and I want to let you go, not be late for the school collection. But yeah, going to kind of round that back up to PPC news and where that's been so helpful is I was really glad to see, I think it was it was probably about 3 weeks ago now, where you split up the analytics side of it into a separate newsletter and very different kind of source, because all of this comes down to that. How do you track the, like all channels, right? It's how do you track the impact of it and that analytics side of things when Google is giving you less, search term data and less direct data. As you say, it's becoming there are elements of it where they're taking control away. That analytics becomes even more useful, but also the role of it changes so much. So actually being able to kind of read in what those broad sway things from GA, for example, is so helpful. So I don't know, that's another thing that I think is really useful about the PPC news, like newsletters and the kind of subscription base, is that analytics side of it.
If you like the analytics side, so you have the website ppc.news, and you can filter by label for Google Analytics. The idea came from actually Thiago, where he was like, I need a website where I can type performance max. I can see all the update of performance max. I was like, okay, let's do it a bit a level up. And Google Analytics, what are the updates over the last 30 days in Google Analytics? So I'm trying to keep it tidy, straight. But it's like a big challenge. Website is a challenge in itself. You can have a look.
Oh, no. I mean, we'll leave that. We'll leave off there then. With that as the call to action. Yeah, definitely for anyone watching, go to that, check it out. Take a look at the topics that interest you. I can pretty much guarantee there'll be some useful info in there. But awesome to chat to you, Yoann.
Me too.
There.
And we'll have a one-on-one together, like over the community, on how to improve it. Okay? I really want to figure out where to improve it.
For sure. Okay.